This is homework for Monday, the 23rd. Remember that you're simplifying radicals. You should not be copying from the video, but you should be listening to it and checking and making sure your answers are correct. Remember, the basic idea is you're trying to see what's the biggest one of these perfect square numbers that can divide evenly into the number that's under the radical sign. So your first problem is negative 4 times the square root of 448. So I need to figure out with my calculator which of these perfect square numbers can divide evenly into 448. And remember, I'm looking for the biggest one of these perfect square numbers that can divide evenly into 448. Try the problem. Remember that you're going to have to multiply because I put a number on the outside today, and then turn the video back on and listen and make sure you're correct. So the biggest perfect square number that I found that can go into 448 is 64. So I write negative 4 times the square root of 64 times 7. Now 64 is my perfect square, so that's the number we've been circling in class. We find the square root of 64. That's 8. And now I do this arrow to show myself I need to remember to multiply. 8 times negative 4. Okay, so when I do negative 4 times the square root of 64, which was 8, I got negative 32 as my final answer in simplified radical form is negative 32 times the square root of 7. Okay, your next problem is negative 2 times the square root of 112. So I'm trying to figure out what is the biggest perfect square number that can divide evenly into 112, and then don't forget to multiply whatever your square root number is that you circle times this negative 2. Turn the video off and try it on your own. The biggest perfect square number that can go into 112 is 16. 16 times 7 is 112. Don't forget you have this negative 2 on the outside. I circle the 16 and find the square root of it because it's the perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. Remember, this shows that I need to multiply. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. This stays underneath because I can't simplify it. I don't know what the square root of it is because it's not a perfect square. So my answer is negative 8 times the square root of 7. Your next one is the opposite of the square root of 216. Whenever you see just this opposite sign on the outside, it's a good idea to tuck a 1 in there to remind yourself this means negative 1 times the square root of 216. Now you're going to try and do this on your own. Try to figure out what is the biggest perfect square number that can divide into 216. Turn the video off. The biggest perfect square number that can divide into 216 evenly is 36. So we circle that 36. What's the square root of 36? 6. What do you do with this 6? You multiply it by this negative 1 that you had, and 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. This 6 is the one that I can't do anything with because it doesn't have a perfect square answer, so it stays underneath. Okay, so this time you have 4 times the square root of 63. Again, what is the biggest perfect square number, that can divide into 63? And remember, you're going to end up doing a multiply again because there's a number on the outside. Turn the video off. Okay, the biggest perfect square number that can divide into 63 is 9. 9 times 7 is 63, and remember we have a 4 on the outside. Okay, the 9 is our perfect square. In class we usually circle that. What's the square root of 9? It's 3. This 3 gets multiplied times the 4. What's 3 times 4? 12. My answer is 12, square root 7. This next problem will be your last problem. This time I'm trying to figure out what is the biggest perfect square that can divide evenly into 42. Turn the video off and try it on your own. Okay, there is no perfect square number other than 1, and 1 doesn't help you, that can divide evenly into 42. So my final answer is 6 square root 42 because you can't simplify this problem. Okay, your homework is done.